Hi, I'm Linda. I am the operations director at Talisman and one of the owners. I have been with Talisman for 20 years now, and I am happy to get to talk with you today about why it is we do the things we do at Talisman and how we do them. Because it may seem a bit odd, some of the choices we make. We know that our kids may prefer to be in front of a screen or do other things than the exciting activities that we do at Talisman. So I want to talk to you about that. We are going to go to slide 2. If you can think back to Psychology 101, remember a guy named Maslow or one named Alderfer, can never get that. They both talked about hierarchy of needs. Everyone has needs, and those needs are very similar. I'm just going to run through them and then tell you how that relates to Talisman. Maslow talked about us having our base needs being physiological, knowing that we are going to have a place to sleep, then food to eat, we'll be warm, we'll be sheltered, really basic needs. And that you had to get those met first before you could even think about the next level. And the next level is pretty basic too. Safety needs, that you feel secure where you are. Where Alderfer would call both of those together your existence needs. You have to be comfortable that both of those are being met before you can even think about your social needs. Your social needs are about belonging, feeling like you have a home, a group that you fit in. And just above that is esteem needs, that you feel good about yourself in general, which also could be considered relatedness needs. Kind of our top needs are about feeling like we know who we are and we have a purpose and we met that. That's that whole self-actualization. Well, Talisman, it would be great if we hit that peak, that mountaintop, but we really want to get into the social needs and the esteem needs. And in order to do that, we need to start by our kids feeling that their basic needs are met. So we are going to start with helping our kids make sure they know that they're going to be fed and where they're going to sleep and they're going to be with safe people and what time things are happening. We want to start there so that we can build up to the social needs. There are certain things that are especially helpful for our kids to feel like they can progress and do well and feel comfortable where they are. The first one is structure. Now, I believe that we all do better with some amount of structure, even if we fight against it. Our kids especially need some structure to give them some boundaries and some guidance in what's going on and to help them to feel more comfortable and less anxious. Anxiety is often caused by not knowing what your structure is and where you are in life. One of the pieces of that is knowing what your schedule is. We will start in day one, once we have gotten introduced to each other, with talking about our daily schedule, our what's happening for the entire session, and we'll have all of these printed and up on walls, and we'll go over them with our kids so they understand what their schedule looks like, that they know that 3 times a day we're going to meals, for example, and what time we're going to bed. Those kind of things will help them relax and be able to be comfortable at camp. That is totally related to routine. We have a routine. Things happen generally the same way every day. And again, once our kids know what that is, they can feel more comfortable that that's not something they have to worry about. We make sure that they understand the plan, and we have a plan for things we're going to do. We do some things spontaneously, but a lot of it is better with our kids if they know what's coming up and they're less anxious and they have fewer questions. And along with that is to have rules. Okay, the next piece is consistency. We need to be consistent with what we say the rules are and what we say how things are going to happen as much as we can, and to follow through with that. That, again, is a piece of decreasing anxiety for our kids. Again, occasionally it's fun to have things that are spontaneous, but for the most part, they want to know it's going to happen the way it should happen. And you know that some of your kids will say, well, that's not the way we do it. And we recognize that that's a piece important to them. Third is that related to that, we have very clear expectations. They know what's expected of them, and they know what they can expect from us. We lay those out. We lay out whether it's our routines or who's in charge of what or how we're going to do things. And then we can move forward and focus on having our fun. Next is very helpful for our kids to get feedback that is immediate when that's appropriate. So if something is not going quite right, that our staff can re-guide them to how they can make that better. If two kids are starting to have difficulty with each other, it can be guided immediately to what you can do that could make it better. If they are working on something like climbing a rock, getting that feedback that is immediate, that is concrete, that we're really specific about what you could change, what you could do differently in order to accomplish your goal. And critically important and related to what Robin has talked about is that we're taking a developmentally appropriate approach. That one, with our kids, we are aware of sensory needs, that there's not too much going on, and whether it's hot, cold, whatever that might be interrupting what our kids can focus on is dealt with. But then that we are being concrete, that we're recognizing whether we have kids who need more processing time, so we slow things down a bit, that we are describing things or having aids that help us to show our kids what's coming up next, but we're really aware of what's developmentally appropriate. And then finally, amongst all of that, that our kids feel at all times acceptance. They are very used to being in places where they're not sure if they're accepted, or at least they don't feel like they're just like the other kids. And that's so important for our kids to have a place where they feel totally accepted. There are some ways that we choose to act throughout all of our activities. And I'd like to tell you just briefly why we've chosen to do these things. Small groups is all about relationships. Our kids operate in groups of 8 with 3 staff typically. Sometimes those vary just a little bit. Why do we do that? Why do they stay with that one group instead of experiencing a different group every hour? Well, you're probably familiar that our kids are not great with transitions. So number one, we want to take that piece out that's very difficult for them. We're going to have transitions, but it's not going to be into a new group of kids. Instead, the main reason that most of our kids are here is to work on social skills. And to be able to do that at any depth, we should stay with the same group and really work on those relationships rather than having 100 different surface relationships. So number one, small groups so we can have quality relationships and work on those. So you have 7 other peers and 3 staff, your adults in your life, that you are focused on and getting to know over the anywhere from 6 days, 13 days, 17 days, and have to work through the bumps that go with that. So number 2 is the consistency. Because you're with those same people, you start to know what to expect, and your staff know what to expect from you and what you can expect from them. So we can have a level of consistency that feels comfortable. What goes along with that is accountability. So your staff actually know you really well because they see you from 7:30 in the morning when you get up through when you go to bed, and they know, are you a morning person or maybe not? Do you get grumpy when you don't have enough food? Is there a time when your meds may wear down and things may be different for you? They know all kinds of things about you, and so they can help you, but they can also hold you accountable for things that you need to take care of yourself. And finally, if we move through the day in one group, it's important that we are doing something different every day. So you don't get tied into, say, 4 classes for the next 3 weeks, which is common in camps and great for a lot of kids. But for our kids, who are hesitant often to try new things, being with a group that does something different every day gives them a chance to try things that they would never have tried before. Why in the world do we use adventure? We know that many of our kids, not all of them, but many of them would really think they would really like to be hanging out in front of a screen. Maybe not now after the last 3 months when they spent a lot of time on screen, but generally they feel more comfortable in that kind of environment than outdoors doing some of these crazy activities that we do in camp. We think that's a really good reason to start with doing things outdoors and doing adventure activities, because when you're just a little off of what you're comfortable with, that's a great opportunity, a great time to learn. And we also think the outdoors and the adventure activities we choose provide a great learning environment. There was an author named Richard Louv who wrote a book called Last Child in the Woods. Not the only book on the subject, but the subject was about how much value being outdoors has for kids. There were many studies that were mentioned in that, and some of them were for all kids, and some of them were about kids with ADHD or kids with autism or kids with anxiety. And in all cases, every study found there was a benefit just to being outdoors, even if you didn't do anything that might be considered therapeutic. That natural environment takes away distractions. These days with media, you're used to being bombarded with visuals and all kinds of thoughts and opinions and activities. When you are outside, that all slows down. Those distractions are gone. So we think that's healthy. We find our adventure activities to be exciting, and so there's incentive to get to them. Not all of our kids like every activity, but all of them like some of them, and they want to get to be part of those. Also, our activities are very inclusive. We don't do competitive activities. We do sports, but in a fun way. But most of our activities are things like climbing in the trees or the rocks, or doing science experiments, or hiking, swimming either in our pond or our pool or at a waterfall. All kinds of activities where you can all be part of it, and there's not somebody that's better than anybody else. We also find the boost in self-esteem from trying something totally new and different is big and is major for our kids. Again, whether it's climbing a rock or whether it's shooting a bow for the first time with archery, and maybe you've done that before, but have you ever thrown a hatchet? These are activities that can be both exciting and can be helpful for our kids to realize I can do cool stuff too and feel really good about themselves. Finally, we just think it's healthy to be outdoors, breathing that fresh air and being in the sunshine. We know we've got to deal with sunshine and bugs and all of that as well as a health matter, but overall we think that's better than being inside. Finally, we have several approaches to our activities that I believe are important. They're kind of philosophies. First is that safety is first. We won't do anything unless we have vetted and made sure that the activity itself can be made as safe as possible, that we have great gear, that we have well-trained staff, whether they're our staff or outside experts, and that we can do this in a way where there may be perceived risk, but it is generally as safe as if we were staying right where we were at camp. Challenge by choice is a very important philosophy that you can take with you anywhere. With our kids, it means we won't force them to do any particular activity. We are going to inform them about what's coming up, try to excite them, encourage them to take a step past what's comfortable for them, but in almost no cases will we require them to do an activity. I say almost none because if we're going for a walk or a hike, we know all our kids can do that, and we will have them come with us unless there's some health reason why they can't. But we want our kids to be making that choice to try. And for many of our kids, all they need is time to see their peers, their more enthusiastic peers, trying something, and then they will want to, and then that's a choice they made for themselves, and they feel good about that. Related to that, we teach each other encouragement. We teach our kids how to give encouragement to their peers who may be more hesitant, and to think about the positive with them and spend less time thinking about how you might criticize what they're doing wrong. Pre and post processing is important for our kids to, the pre-processing is about knowing what to expect and decreasing that anxiety. The post-processing is about being aware of what I've learned and what I've accomplished and how I feel about it. We do add in a lot of preparation for transition, and that is part of that pre and post processing and being ready to go from one activity to another. And finally, we have a daily schedule. We make sure that our kids understand what it is, they know what's coming up, they know what they're looking forward to, and we help them with the things they might be nervous about. So that is in a nutshell how we approach activities and how we approach what we do at Talisman, and hopefully that helps you understand why we've decided to do it the way we do and why we think this is very effective for your kids. If you have any questions on any part of this, please feel free to reach out to Robin or myself. We would be happy to explain to you how we've come to decide what we're doing at Talisman, and definitely take your feedback on that as well. Thank you.